Market from last few days is not moving at all. It is moving in a range only, and no nothing to talk about market as such because on last few days we already spoken in detail now what is impacting market. But today my main no coverage will be the banks. Okay, if you see the banks in last 1 year has given a decent performance, and all these banks are in uptick. And of course in last 3 years, 5 years, if you see, I think PSU banks has outperformed private banks. But from here, which segment to buy, private banks or public sector bank, that is what we are going to talk about, and many of the our viewers has asked that question, so let us address that. So now talking about the banks, no let me directly show you in the charts, and so that you will able to understand much more in detail. So if you talk about let me show the screen. By the way, guys, if you're still not no like our video and no basic subscribe our channel, to do subscribe it without fail. Okay, so talking about banking sector, if you can see here, no, in last 1 year, you see the orange line is the public sector bank, and you can see here the black is the normal banks, and the yellow is the private banks, and you can see here, no, almost. Uh, Now this is a Tijoi Finance. I'm using it, but they are saying that their public bank, whatever coverage they have done, it's gone up by 30%. Overall banks has gone up by 27%, private banks almost 17%, so completely outperforms. Even if in 5 years, if you 5 years period, if you see, chalo 3 years le lete hain. So in 3 years also, no, if you see, no, public sector banks has outperformed almost double of what, more than double. Okay, if you see the public sector bank has gone up by 98%, and private banks has gone up by almost 36%. Even same way you can see in the Nifty bank also, 1 year, 3 year chart, where public sector bank has literally outperformed. Now what it shows that a shift happened in last 5 years and 3 years now, where public sector outperform, and there are many reasons behind that, and that is what we are going to talk about, and whether same public sector bank can it outperform in future. So when we talk about all these banks, so let us talk about compare with ratio, with each and every parameter, private banks and public banks, so that will give you a very, very good understanding. So when we talk about the private banks, okay, this is the private banks. Okay, and I have taken HDFC, IndusInd, then you can say Kotak Mahindra Bank. Okay, 1 minute. I'll just yeah, Kotak Mahindra Bank and ICICI Bank and all that. Okay, so when we talk about now 2018, 17, you can see here. No, the you can 1 minute. I just remove here State Bank of India, so no, will not have any confusion. So when we talk about these banks, okay, you can see here the NPA was too high in 2017, 4.9, almost Axis Bank 2.1, and it has peaked around that level only. And slowly and gradually, now if you see talk about no last quarter, most of the private banks is surrounding around no point 0.6, point 4, something like that. No, so a titanic shift of NPA going down, and that is where the banking sector has outperformed in last few years. No, because RBI has done a great role in actually controlling the NPA. Now let us understand about the public sector bank. As I told you, the highest was around 4.9% of ICICI Bank. I'm talking about large banks. Now, when we talk about private banks, and let me talk about NPAs only, so you'll have a better understanding. So, when we talk about all these banks, you can see here 2017 we spoken about. No, yes. So, 2017 Indian Overseas Bank was having 15% NPA. PNB around 8.7, Canara Bank 7.1, State Bank of India 16.6. Sorry, you can see much higher than the private banks. वो पीक गया था तब तक 15.3, पीएनबी 11%, कैनेरा बैंक 7.5%, आई इंडियन ओवरसीज बैंक 15%. So they were having much higher NPAs, but over the years you see such a big decline came, and now it is around, you can say they are also in the same line, point 0.3, point 0.6, little bit higher than the private bank. Canara Bank is 0.99, but you can see Indian Overseas Bank no almost 15 से 0.47 आ गया. Now this is where no there was a completely, you can say, no check on the books how they are giving the loans, and they are able to control the NPAs, and that is where no RBI played a big role. And Mehul Choksi and all that, that no so many things happened, Vijay Malia and Rana Kapoor and all that during there, uske baad काफी shift hua, and now the NPA is in much in control, and that is the reason why in last 3 years and 5 years जो बैंक्स थे वो, that if you ask me, that public sector banks were trading around 0.5 0.6 प्राइस टू बुक वैल्यू, वो काफी अभी हाई लेवल पे चल रही है, ओके, क्रॉस वन, ओके, वी वांट टू सी, लेट अस सी दैट वन आल्सो. सो अगर हम लोग प्राइवेट बैंक्स की बात करें, यू कैन सी हियर, if I see the price to book value, why I'm checking price to book value, guys? Price to book value is a very important metric, when you are checking any bank's valuation. So agar HDFC Bank and all that, you can see they are trading around 3.1, 3.6, why ICICI Bank 2, Kotak Mahindra Bank 2.7, okay, IndusInd 1.2, so much above 1 and above, okay. Now these banks, if I talk about PSU sectors, okay, पीएसयू में अगर आप देखो तो अभी इनका जैसे स्टेट बैंक ऑफ इंडिया इज हैविंग 1.87, आईओबी इज हैविंग 3.85, काफी उसमें इम्प्रूव है, और अभी ये जाके 1 के ऊपर हुआ है. अर्लियर इट यूज्ड टू बी 1 बिलो, ओके. नाउ दिस इज वेयर नो अर्लियर द बिग चेंज हैपेंड, and 0.5 0.6 say this they come to point almost 1%, 1 and above, and that is why you can see the prices got almost double of most of the banks. This is what you have to keep in mind, okay. So now the many of the improvement is already done in public sector bank also, and much of the price discovery already done. I'm not saying they cannot increase from here, they can, but what I'm saying that you cannot go at a NPA level below 0.3 0.4, उससे से कम कहाँ जाओगे, अब इतना तो NPA होगा ही होगा ना. And that is where even the public sector bank is also reaching at a optimum level, so that you always have to keep in mind when you are checking all these banks, okay. Similarly, now let us talk about 1 minute, guys. Yeah. Now when we talk about banking sector in detail, I don't know why this is not going away. Just a minute. Yeah, now it's okay. Now let us talk about another important parameters. And what are the other parameters? Let us understand the operational metrics that will help us a lot to understand. So talking about operational metrics, guys, I let us understand the CASA ratio. Now, CASA ratio also very important to understand for the private banks and the public sector banks. कासा क्या होता है? कासा होता है करंट अकाउंट एंड सेविंग अकाउंट. जितना आपका कासा अच्छा है उतना आपके लिए बेटर, ओके, बिकॉज इफ यू हैव मोर कासा रेशियो दैट विल हेल्प यू टू गिव यू मोर क्रेडिट, टू द end consumer. Now you can see here the CASA ratio was around 59, 44, 42 around. No, you can talk about 2010. उसके बाद उतना ही रहा है, and now it is slowly gradually coming down to 43, 42, 49, 39 something of private banks. Now why it has come down? The reason is shift is happening to, you can say, deposit to the stock market. More and more investors are investing in the stock market, and that is why you can see such a big shift in, you can say that, money from deposit to the stock market, and that is what people are doing, SIP, mutual fund, SIP. That is why ये आप देखिए यहाँ 2021 देन ऑल्सो कोटक महिंद्रा बैंक was 60%, अब वो जाके कम होके 43 आ गया, सबके डाउन आए. Now when we talk about public sector bank, let me open up CASA ratio. Now, if you compare like this, no, it will give you a very good understanding, where the all these companies are standing. उनका भी देखो 47 40 था, अभी वो उनका भी कम होके 40 के आसपास आके रुक गया है. Here, average is around 40% for public sector bank. If you talk about private banks, it is around, you can say that also around 41, 42 only. So, CASA ratio is slowly and gradually coming down, and this is where their, you can say, their cost of funding is going up. Why cost of funding goes up? See, cost of funding kya hai? Now, whatever lending all these companies have to do, private banks and public banks, at the end of the day, they have to bring that money पहले क्या होता था, करंट अकाउंट सेविंग अकाउंट का बहुत सारा पैसा आता था, अभी वो नहीं आ रहा है, तो उनको बाहर से पैसे लाने पड़ेंगे। एंड व्हेन द आरबीआई इज एक्चुअली, अभी तो इंटरेस्ट रेट हाई है ना, दे आर नॉट कटेड द इंटरेस्ट रेट, तो एट दिस हाई इंटरेस्ट रेट सिनेरियो वॉट एवर बोरोइंग दे मस्ट बी डूइंग, नो इट विल बी एट अ हायर कॉस्ट, एंड दैट इज कॉस्ट ऑफ फंडिंग। सो कॉस्ट ऑफ, तो अगर कॉस्ट ऑफ बोरोइंग हम लोग अगर बात करें प्राइवेट बैंक की, देन यू कैन सी हियर 22, around 22 it was around 4% around something, and which has gone up to almost around 5.6, 5.4 now, and that is where there, you can say, no, they profitably gets hit, and that is what you have to keep in mind. Now similarly, public sector bank, now let us understand uh, cost, sorry, कॉस्ट ऑफ बोरिंग फॉर पब्लिक सेक्टर बैंक ना, उनका भी देखो अराउंड 4.3 था, एंड दैट आल्सो गॉन अप अराउंड 5.2 समथिंग। कभी कभी हमको लगता है कि पब्लिक सेक्टर बैंक का क्या कम होता है कॉस्ट ऑफ डिपॉजिट, नहीं ऐसा नहीं होता है ना, बिकॉज एट द एंड ऑफ द डे दैट डिपेंड्स ऑन हाउ मच कासा डिपॉजिट दे आर गेटिंग एंड हाउ दे आर एबल टू ऑप्टिमाइज इट। नाउ ये जो कॉस्ट ऑफ डिपॉजिट उनका हाई है, okay, cost of borrowing, sorry, cost of borrowing whatever high, and because of that, no, profitability gets shrink. But as the RBI is going to cut the interest rate maybe from February now, you know that Sanjay Malhotra is our new RBI governor, and a very very big task for him, to control all this stuff, but to control inflation and bring the repo rate down, because there is lot of pressure from the government and from the industry, to bring to have an RBI cut, because across the world सबने कट चालू कर दिया है, हम ही ऐसे हैं जिन्होंने अभी तक भी रेपो कट नहीं किया है। Lot of pressure is there, so let's see whether he is able to do in February or not, but yes, as and when he is able to cut the repo rate, I think this will add to the profitability of the banks and all that, because cost of borrowing jitni high रहेगी उतने banks के लिए negative है। Now another important metrics we'll check about is the net interest margin. Now, when we talk about the net interest margin, now what is net interest margin? Net interest margin is the difference between, no, how much percentage you are giving, how much interest you are giving on your deposit, and how much interest you are charging from the borrowers who are taking loans from you. Okay, so suppose आपने कोई डिपॉजिट, कोई किसी ने आके आपके बैंक में डिपॉजिट डाला है, इट इज अराउंड मे बी 5%। ओके, चलो इतना तो ज्यादा नहीं होता है, मे बी 4%, सो 4% यू आर पेइंग दैट। Okay, and then that same amount you are giving as a loan, around 8 to 9%. Okay, now that 8 minus 4 is nothing but that 4% is the net interest margin minus expenses, just a simple formula I am saying। So वो जितना high होगा वो आपके लिए अच्छा है। Okay, so if you see here, December 2022, it was around 5%, 4% around most of the private banks, which has come down to almost, you can say, 4.9 to 4%. So net interest margin is actually going down. And even when we talk about for 1 minute, yeah, here it is for public sector banks, that also, if you see here, no, it is around 2.6, 2.8, and around 3 only। नाउ नेट इंटरेस्ट मार्जिन में काफी सारी चीजें भी आपकी रहेगी कि हाउ मच एट व्हाट इंटरेस्ट यू आर एबल टू बोरो फ्रॉम द मार्केट। The lower the interest rate, the better it is। So if you see public sector का हमेशा net interest margin is lower compared to the private banks, because private banks is able to fund their loans at a much lower rate। So more the NII, the better is the profitability, that you always have to keep in mind। Okay, again, basically credit deposit ratio is another important metrics you have to see। Now, what is this credit deposit ratio? Is nothing but somehow how much credit you are giving to the market, uska some proportion you have to have a deposit। Normally ideally is around 80 to 90। ओके, 80 के आसपास होगा तो बेस्ट है, बट यू कैन सी हियर लाइक एचडीएफसी बैंक का तो 114 चला गया था, बिकॉज देयर कासा रेशियो गोन डाउन। नाउ इट इज बिलो 100, बट यस इट इज अराउंड 80 90। द मोर you have credit to deposit, you cannot give loan more, that you have to keep in mind। Even when we talk about the credit deposit ratio of public sector banks, It is around 8077 or something like that. So if you ask me, then who can give more loan from here? I think still the public sector banks has much better option from here also. Okay, so this is what you have to keep in mind. Also, if you, there are a lot many other metrics, you can check it out, but no, that will what we'll do now currently, we'll talk about some other important things also, no, which may impact the public sector bank and private sector private companies, private banks basically. Now I've shown you 4 to 5 metrics, still more metrics you can see. But what is visible here, that public sector, why it has done well? Because first of all, over the years, in last few years, they are able to control their NPS. तो कहते हैं ना, लॉस से प्रॉफिट में आते तो ऑफ कोर्स आपका स्टॉक प्राइस बढ़ेगा, plus they are able to maintain their costs and everything, and much more now optimized. Okay, much more optimized, so that is a good thing. But from here, whether private bank will do well or public sector bank will do well, all depends on how they are able to control the NPS. Okay, still NPS सबका almost 1% के नीचे है, which is great, but इससे 0.3 0.4 से नीचे आप जा नहीं सकते. Now the good thing is that RBI already cut that CRR by almost 50 basis points, so that is infused some liquidity among the banks. So that is a positive sign. But overall, I think no, banks still have a lot of growth from here also. नाउ यू मे आर्ग्यू, नहीं तपन, लेकिन लोग अभी कासा कम कर रहे हैं और स्टॉक मार्केट में ज्यादा चल रहे हैं. हाँ, तो जाएंगे ही जाएंगे, बट एज ए इन्वेस्टर यू हैव टू नो बाय एन एफिशिएंट बैंक. एंड ओवर द टाइम ऐसा नहीं, बैंकिंग सेक्टर देखो, बैंक एट द एंड बैंकिंग सेक्टर इज द लाइफलाइन ऑफ एनी इकोनॉमी. You need funds, correct? You need funds to no basically run this economy. So these banks will also do well, but if you ask me which will do better, I think private may do better than public sector, because public sector price discovery already done. That is what I think. Unless few banks at the top level, I am very positive. But rather than as a basket, no, I think private banks may do well compared to public sector banks. So guys, that is what I wanted to tell you. Hope you like this research and analysis. If you like it, do like it and share it to everyone. And guys, if you have any question, put it in the chat box. I'll try to come with the new no understanding of any sector in the next video. And if you want to attend our masterclass, the link is given below. Do attend it. Okay. Chale, so thank you very much for joining, guys, and I'll see you soon in the next video. Bye bye.